The moment I saw the tears on my daughter's face, I knew that gift was never a gift. It was a Saturday afternoon, the kind of lazy, golden Saturday where the sunlight falls soft on the living room floor and you think nothing bad can happen because the world feels quiet. I was folding laundry. My daughter Mira had gone to my parents' house just 2 hours earlier. She was wearing her favorite pink dress, the one with the little strawberries on the pocket. She was smiling when she left, hugging her small backpack, excited to see her grandparents. I remember telling her, "Be a good girl, and say thank you for anything they give you." She kissed my cheek and ran out the door. 2 hours later, she came back, but she was not the same little girl who had left. I heard the front door open slowly, too slowly. Usually, Mira bursts in like a little tornado, throwing her shoes off mid-air, shouting, "Mama, Mama," before she even reaches the kitchen. But that day, the door creaked. There was a long pause. Then I heard a small sniffle. My heart tightened. I walked out of the kitchen, drying my hands on a towel, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Mira was standing in the hallway. Her face was red. Her eyes were swollen. Tears had carved little rivers down her cheeks. She was holding a small white bag, the kind of gift bag you get from a cheap department store. It had a pink ribbon tied in a crooked bow, but her tiny hands were shaking, and she was not smiling. She was not running. She was just standing there, broken. I knelt down immediately. "Mira, baby, what happened?" She didn't answer at first. She just looked at the bag in her hands like it was made of glass or maybe like it was made of thorns. Then she whispered something so softly that I almost didn't hear it. She said, "Grandma said you're going to hell." The towel slipped from my hands. "What?" "Grandma said, you're a bad mother, and that this gift is the last thing you will ever get from them." I felt the floor tilt beneath me. My own mother. My own father. They had said that to a 7-year-old girl. My 7-year-old girl. I pulled Mira into my arms. She started sobbing. Deep, heavy sobs that shook her whole little body. I held her and rocked her and whispered that everything was okay, but inside, I was not okay. Inside, something was cracking open, something dark and cold. After a few minutes, when her crying slowed down to hiccups, I took the white bag from her hands. It was light, too light. I opened it slowly. And what I found inside changed everything. But before I tell you what was in that bag, you need to understand something. You need to understand the story of my family. Because this did not start on a Saturday afternoon. This started 20 years ago. And the gift in that bag was not a surprise. It was the final nail in a coffin that my parents had been building for me my entire life. So let me go back. Let me take you to the beginning, because revenge is not born in a single moment. It grows, in silence, in tears, in every betrayal you pretend to forget. I was not the favorite child. I learned that before I learned to tie my shoes. My parents had 2 daughters, me, and my younger sister, Anita. Anita was everything I was not. She was fairer, thinner, quieter. She smiled when guests came over. She folded her hands nicely and said, "Namaste," in a sweet little voice. I was the loud one, the questioning one, the one who asked too many questions and never sat still. But the difference between us was not about behavior, it was about something deeper, something cruel. My parents loved Anita. They adored her. They celebrated her. And me? They tolerated me. Like a piece of old furniture you keep because throwing it away would be too much effort. I remember my 5th birthday. I asked for a doll. Just one doll. Anita had gotten a brand new doll for her 4th birthday, a beautiful one with real hair and a little pink dress. For my 5th birthday, my parents gave me a notebook, a plain, white notebook. My mother said, "You need to practice your writing. You are not as smart as your sister." I was 5. I did not understand what I had done wrong. I tried harder. I got better grades. I cleaned my room. I helped in the kitchen. Nothing worked. The more I tried to earn their love, the colder they became. It was like trying to hug a shadow. Anita, on the other hand, could do no wrong. She broke a vase? Oh, she was just playing. I spilled milk. You are so careless. Why can't you be more like your sister? This pattern followed me into my teenage years, and then into adulthood, and eventually into my marriage. Because when I fell in love with a man named Vikram, my parents did everything in their power to destroy that relationship. Vikram was a good man, kind, hardworking. He was not rich, and that was the problem. My parents wanted me to marry a wealthy man, not because they cared about my happiness, but because they wanted bragging rights. They wanted to tell their friends, "Our daughter married a doctor. Our daughter married an engineer." Vikram was a high school teacher, a noble profession, but not noble enough for them. My mother sat me down one evening and said, "If you marry that man, you're dead to us." I married him anyway, and they kept their word. For 3 years they did not call. They did not visit. They acted like I did not exist. Meanwhile, Anita married a wealthy businessman. There was a grand wedding, 500 guests, a honeymoon in Switzerland. My parents sold their second car to pay for that wedding. I heard about it from a cousin. I cried in the bathroom so Vikram would not see. But then something happened. Something that made my parents remember I existed. I became pregnant with Mira, and suddenly they wanted back in. The phone call came on a Tuesday night. I was 6 months pregnant. My feet were swollen. My back ached. Vikram was at work. I was alone, eating cold rice from the fridge because I was too tired to cook. The phone rang. I almost did not answer, but something made me pick it up. It was my mother. She said, "Beta, I heard you were expecting." Beta. She called me Beta after 3 years of silence, 3 years of pretending I was dead. And now, because I was carrying her grandchild, she wanted to talk. I should have hung up. I should have protected myself. But pregnancy makes you soft. It makes you hope. It makes you believe that maybe, just maybe, people can change. I let her back in. She came to visit. She brought sweets. She touched my belly and cried. She said, "I am sorry for everything. I want to be a good grandmother." My father came too. He was quieter, but he nodded and said, "Family is family." I believed them. God help me, I believed them. When Mira was born, they were there. My mother held her first. She looked at that tiny face and said, "She looks like Anita." Not like me. Like Anita. Even in that moment, I was invisible. But I told myself to be grateful. I told myself that at least my daughter would have grandparents. I did not want her to grow up without that love, even if I had. For a few years, things were okay. Not good, but okay. They would visit once a month. They would bring small gifts. They would take Mira to the park. It was civil. It was surface level, but I could feel the coldness underneath. The way my mother would criticize my cooking. The way my father would ignore me when I spoke. The way they would compare Mira to Anita's children. Anita's son already knows the alphabet. Mira is still playing with blocks. I swallowed it. I swallowed it for years. But then Vikram got sick. And that is when the mask came off completely. Vikram was diagnosed with a rare kidney disease. The doctor said he would need dialysis, expensive medication, possibly a transplant. The bills piled up like snow in a blizzard. I was working part-time at a small accounting firm. My salary was not enough. Vikram had to stop working because he was too weak. We started selling things. The TV, the extra fridge, my wedding jewelry. I called my parents. I did not want to. Believe me, I did not want to. But I had no one else. Anita was traveling in Europe. Vikram's parents were gone. I was alone, drowning in hospital bills and fear. My mother answered the phone. I explained everything. The diagnosis, the expenses, the fear. I was crying. I could not stop crying. There was a long silence on the other end. Then my mother said, "You should have married a richer man." That was it. No sympathy. No offer to help. Just cruelty wrapped in a calm voice. I begged. I actually begged. I said, "Ma, please, just a small loan. I will pay you back. I promise." She said, "We cannot help you. We have our own expenses." I found out later that they had just gifted Anita a brand new car, a luxury SUV, cash. Well, they could not help me, but they could buy Anita a car. That was the moment something inside me broke. Not cracked. Broke. Completely. I hung up. I sat on the bathroom floor. And I made a promise to myself. I promised that I would never beg them for anything again. I promised that I would find a way, and I promised that one day they would understand what they had done. Vikram survived. Barely. We drained our savings. I took 3 jobs, cleaning houses at night, data entry in the mornings, accounting in the afternoons. I slept 4 hours a day for 2 years. Vikram recovered slowly. And somewhere in that darkness, I built a strength I did not know I had. But my parents did not stop. They did not apologize. They did not even acknowledge what had happened. Instead, they started slowly turning Mira against me. And that was the mistake they would regret forever. When Mira was 5, my parents started asking to take her for weekends. I was exhausted, working so much. Vikram's still weak. I thought they were helping. I thought they were finally being good grandparents. I was wrong. They were not helping Mira. They were molding her, shaping her, filling her little ears with poison disguised as love. It started small. Mira would come home and say things like, "Grandma says you work too much. She says you don't spend time with me." I would explain that I worked to pay for her school, her food, her toys. She was 5. She did not fully understand. Then it got worse. Grandma says Daddy was sick because he didn't pray enough. Grandma says you should be more like Auntie Anita. Auntie Anita stays home with her kids. I confronted my mother. Calmly, politely. I said, "Please don't say those things to Mira. She is just a child." My mother looked at me with ice in her eyes. "I'm just telling her the truth. Someone has to." I stopped the weekend visits, but the damage was already done. Mira started pulling away from me. She would cry when I dropped her at school. She would ask why I was not nice like Grandma. It broke my heart into pieces I am still picking up, but I did not fight back. I did not yell. I did not expose them because I still hoped, stupidly, foolishly, I still hoped that one day they would love me. That hope died on that Saturday afternoon when Mira came home crying, holding that white bag. I opened the white bag slowly. Mira was still crying in my arms. My hands were trembling. I pulled out the tissue paper, and then I saw it. It was a photograph. A small framed photograph, the kind you put on a bedside table. But it was not a picture of me, not a picture of Mira, not a picture of Vikram. It was a picture of my parents with Anita and her family, all of them smiling, perfect, happy. It was the family portrait they had taken last Christmas. The Christmas I was not invited to. And taped to the back of the frame was a note, written in my mother's handwriting. The note said, "This is what a real family looks like. You were never part of it, and neither is your daughter. Do not contact us again. Ever." I read it 3 times. Each time the words got heavier. Each time the room got smaller. This was not a gift. This was a goodbye. A cruel, vicious goodbye delivered through a 7-year-old girl. They had handed that bag to my daughter. They had watched her carry it home. They knew she would read the note. No, they knew she could not read yet, but they knew she would see the picture. They knew she would cry. They knew she would ask questions. They knew it would destroy me. And they did it anyway. I sat on the floor for a long time. Mira had fallen asleep in my lap, exhausted from crying. I looked at her face, so innocent, so small, and I felt something I had never felt before. Not sadness, not anger, rage. A cold, quiet, calculated rage. I looked at that photograph, at those smiling faces, at my mother's handwriting, and I made a new promise. I promised that I would not cry, I would not beg, I would not break. I would build something they could not touch, something they could not destroy. I would build revenge, but not the kind of revenge you see in movies, not screaming, not violence, no. My revenge would be quiet, it would be patient, it would be legal, and when it was done, they would wish they had never sent that gift. The first thing I did was nothing. I did not call them. I did not text. I did not post angry statuses on social media. I did not send the photograph back with a nasty note. I did nothing. Because the first rule of revenge is this: never let them see you coming. If I had called my mother screaming, she would have won. She would have told everyone, "See, she's crazy. She is unstable. We were right to cut her off." If I had shown up at their house crying, they would have called the police. They would have played the victim. So I stayed silent, but inside I was building a machine. I started with research. I spent hours online. I went through old emails, old text messages. I pulled bank statements from years ago. I called old relatives and asked careful questions. Oh, just catching up. Do you remember when my parents sold that property? Innocent questions. But the answers were gold. Here is what I discovered. My parents had inherited a large amount of money from my grandfather. A huge sum. And legally, because I was his granddaughter, I was entitled to a share, but my parents had hidden that from me. They had forged documents. They had transferred everything to Anita's name. They had done it while I was struggling to pay for Vikram's treatment, while I was cleaning houses at night, while I was selling my wedding jewelry. They had stolen from me, and then they had sent me a photograph to remind me that I was nothing. I hired a lawyer, a quiet, sharp woman named Priya. Priya did not smile much. She did not ask personal questions. She just looked at the evidence and said, "We have a case, a strong one." But I did not want to just win a case. I wanted to destroy their peace. I wanted them to feel the same fear I felt when I sat on that bathroom floor. So phase 1 was simple: gather everything, every document, every witness, every lie they had ever told, and wait for the perfect moment. 8 months passed. 8 months of silence. My parents probably thought I had accepted my fate. They probably thought I was crying in my room, too weak to fight back. Anita posted vacation photos. My mother posted inspirational quotes about letting go of toxic people. My father posted nothing. He never did. And then they made a mistake. A big one. Anita's husband's business started failing. Bad investments, bad decisions. Suddenly the luxury car and the Europe trips were not sustainable. They needed money. Fast. So my parents decided to sell a piece of land, a small farm my grandfather had left in my name. Yes, in my name. My grandfather had specifically written in his will that this land was for me. But my parents had hidden that too. They had kept the original will locked away. They had told me the land was sold years ago. Now they wanted to sell it. Without telling me, without giving me a single rupee. But here is the thing about waiting. When you wait long enough, people forget to be careful. My mother called the land broker. She discussed prices. She signed papers. She thought I would never know. But I had a friend who worked in that broker's office, a quiet woman I had helped years ago when she needed a job. She owed me, and she sent me copies of everything. That was the moment I struck. My lawyer, Priya, filed a legal notice, a formal injunction stopping the sale of the land. And she sent copies to every single relative, every friend, every neighbor. The notice clearly stated that my parents had concealed a legal will, stolen my inheritance, and attempted to sell property that did not belong to them. The family group chat exploded. I was not in that chat, but my cousin Ravi was. He sent me screenshots. My mother was furious. How dare she? After everything we did for her, she is lying. She is greedy. But the documents did not lie. The will was real. The signatures were real. The bank transfers were real. And then something beautiful happened. Anita started panicking because the stolen money was in her account. The forged documents had her name on them. She was not just a bystander. She was a participant. Suddenly, the perfect sister was not so perfect anymore. The legal case moved slowly, but the damage was instant. Relatives who had ignored me for years started calling. I always knew something was wrong. Your mother was always too proud. You poor thing. I did not enjoy their sympathy. I did not trust it. These were the same people who had attended Anita's grand wedding and never once asked how I was doing. But I used them. I told them stories, small ones, just enough to keep the fire burning. Meanwhile, my parents tried to fight back. They hired a lawyer. They denied everything. They called me a liar. They said I was bitter because my marriage was failing. It wasn't. Vikram and I were stronger than ever. But the evidence was overwhelming. The original will had been hidden in my mother's closet. My lawyer got a court order to search the house. The police found it, along with other things, old letters, old photographs, and a diary. My mother's diary. Reading that diary broke something in me, but it also set me free. Because in her own handwriting, my mother had written the truth. She had written that she never wanted a second daughter, that I reminded her of her own difficult childhood, that she had always resented me, that she had favored Anita on purpose, that she had hoped I would disappear from their lives. There was even an entry about the gift, the white bag with the photograph. She wrote, "Today I finally cut her off for good, sent that brat home with a picture of a real family. Let her cry. Let her husband see what a failure she is. I am done pretending to love her." I read that line 20 times. 20 times. Then I photocopied every single page, and I sent them to the court. The judge was a woman, a mother of 2 daughters. I did not plan that. But when I saw her face as she read the diary, I knew I had already won. The final hearing was on a rainy Tuesday. I wore a simple blue sari, no jewelry, no makeup. I wanted them to see me as I was, not angry, not broken, just done. My parents sat on the other side of the room. My mother looked smaller than I remembered. My father stared at the floor, Anita was not there. She had sent a lawyer to represent her. Her husband had left her 2 weeks before the hearing. The stress of the case had destroyed their marriage. I did not feel good about that. I did not feel bad either. I felt nothing. The judge asked my mother if she had written the diary entries. My mother said no. She said someone had planted it. Then the judge asked for a handwriting expert. The expert confirmed it was my mother's writing. 99.9% match. The room went silent. My mother started crying. Loud, ugly crying. My father put his head in his hands. Their lawyer looked embarrassed. The judge ruled in my favor. Completely. The land was returned to me. The stolen money had to be repaid with interest. And my parents were ordered to pay all legal fees, plus a public apology, in writing, to be shared with the entire family. But I did not stop there. I had one more request. The judge allowed it. I stood up. I looked at my mother and I said, I do not want the apology. An apology from you means nothing. Keep it. Keep your words. You have given me enough words for a lifetime. Then I turned to the judge and said, Your Honor, I only ask for one thing, that they never contact me or my daughter again. No calls, no letters, no gifts, no messages through relatives, nothing. I want them to disappear from our lives the way they always wanted me to disappear from theirs. The judge granted that request, with a legal order. If they contacted me, they would go to jail. My mother screamed. My father tried to speak, but the bailiffs led them out. I walked out of that courtroom into the rain, and for the first time in 20 years, I felt light. That was 3 years ago. Today, Mira is 10 years old. She does not remember the white bag. She does not remember the tears. Vikram is healthy. He is teaching again. I started my own small business, a little cafe near the school. It is not fancy, but it is mine. My parents still live in the same house, but the house feels different now. I have heard from neighbors that my mother barely leaves her room, that my father spends all day in the garden, alone, that Anita moved to another city and changed her number. The family that was so perfect in that photograph crumbled, not because of me, because of what they were all along. I just held up a mirror. I do not think about them often. When I do not feel anger. I do not feel sadness. I feel nothing. And that is the most powerful thing of all. Because revenge is not about making someone else suffer. Revenge is about freeing yourself. It is about looking at the people who broke you and saying, you do not get to define me anymore. That white bag was meant to destroy me. Instead, it became the key to my freedom. And the photograph, I kept it. I put it in a drawer, not because I want to remember them, but because I want to remember who I was before I stood up, and who I became after. If you're listening to this and you have a family that hurts you, please hear me. Blood does not make a family. Love does. Respect does. Loyalty does. If your parents, your siblings, your relatives treat you like an option, you have every right to walk away. You do not owe them your pain. You do not owe them your silence. I spent 20 years hoping my parents would change. 20 years of swallowing insults. 20 years of begging for scraps of affection. And in the end, the only person who could save me was me. Do not wait for an apology that will never come. Do not wait for them to see your worth. They will not. Some people are not capable of love, and that is not your fault. But here is the truth they do not want you to know. You are stronger than you think. You can survive their rejection. You can build a new family. You can find peace on the other side of their cruelty. My revenge was not about destroying them. It was about building myself. And when I was done building, they could not touch me. Not with their words. Not with their gifts. Not with their hate. So, if you're holding a white bag of your own today, open it, face whatever is inside, and then decide, will you stay broken? Or will you rise? Or the choice is yours. But remember this, the best revenge is not pain. The best revenge is peace, the kind of peace they can never take from you again. Before I finish this story, I want to share something with you. A year after the court case, I wrote a letter to my mother. I never sent it. I never will. But writing it helped me heal, and maybe it will help you too. Here is what I wrote. Dear Ma, I am not writing this to hurt you. I am writing this to let you go. I used to dream that one day you would hold my face in your hands and say, I am proud of you. I used to dream that you would see me the way you saw Anita, but I do not dream that anymore. You sent me a gift once, a photograph. You said I was not part of your family, and you were right. I was not, because I was never meant to be. I was meant to be the lesson you never learned. But here is the truth, Ma. I am part of a family now, a real one. My daughter smiles when she sees me. My husband holds my hand when I am scared. My cafe has regular customers who call me by name. I'm not invisible anymore. I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. Do not look for me. Do not send messages. Our story is over. Yours no more. Your daughter. I folded that letter and burned it in my backyard. The smoke rose into the sky and disappeared, and so did my pain. If this story touched you, please remember, you are not alone. Families can be complicated, parents can be wrong, and love should never hurt this much. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it, and if you have your own story of betrayal and revenge, write it down. You never know who might be saved by your truth. Thank you for listening. And remember, the next time someone hands you a gift wrapped in cruelty, do not cry. Open it, face it, and then build something so beautiful that they can never tear it down. Until next time, stay strong, stay brave, and choose yourself.